Welcome back to the 10th episode of Real College Reviews. I'm your host, as always, Jude Bazerman. Today I'm here with my friend Nick. Nick, let's jump right into it. Just introduce yourself a little bit more.
All right. I am Nick Vandermolen. I'm a junior here at Stockton University down in Galloway, New Jersey, and my major is exercise science.
Awesome, Nick. And Stockton, it's a long list of state schools in New Jersey that I've interviewed. Montclair State, Rutgers, TCNJ. Choosing Stockton, what stuck out to you? Not only just other state schools, but other schools in general. I mean, why'd you choose Stockton?
So, funny enough, I actually looked at a pretty good amount of the state schools here as well. I looked at TCNJ, very nice school. Looked at Kane as well. And I think when I finally went down to Stockton, it kind of just interested me the most in the sense that it had the major I was looking for. It was definitely a pretty, not like prestigious, but it had its worth in that major of exercise science. And the campus is very nice. A lot of people, at least from our town, that go there. And I think I started really getting absorbed before I committed to anything. I was getting really absorbed into like wanting to play D3 lacrosse like anywhere I went.
Right.
So I was kind of, looking for lacrosse teams or coaches that I was talking to. And, all of that fell through. And I just kind of committed to Stockton. And, it's been working out ever since. So it's been going pretty good.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And then you mentioned you were considering some other state schools that we were just talking about. What were your final, 2 or 3 schools besides Stockton that you were really considering?
Yeah, so it was TCNJ, Moravian, which is in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, actually. And I think it was another school in like Connecticut.
Gotcha.
That was like St. Joe's maybe, and it was kind of iffy on that one. So I'd say really Moravian, TCNJ, and Stockton were like the main heavy 3, and I went with Stockton. Yeah.
No, and your major, you mentioned that as one of the specific draws that brought you to Stockton. We'll get into exercise science and that whole path later on in the episode. Were there anything else specific about TCNJ, Stockton, rather, big mistake on my part, Stockton that stuck out to you, when touring the campus or on Accepted Students Day? I mean, what was, I guess, besides your major, what was kind of the main catalyst in choosing Stockton?
The campus itself was very nice. Like when I went there for Accepted Students Day, everyone was, having it. The energy was there.
Yeah.
A lot of people were really showing up to that event, and the students that were already working that event, really made it seem like this was the place to go. And then when I went to orientation, I had like made such a great group of friends already, and it was really starting off. Like I was thinking this was going to be it, and this was going to be like, if this is what college is like, I'm going to have a great time. I'm going to be making my friends right away. It's going to be great.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear, and especially when those schools, and they do their best on those orientation days where they just, they bring out the best food, they bring out the most energetic people, everyone's in a great mood. So they definitely, not just Stockton, not just Syracuse where I go, but they do their best on selling you on that school. But jumping more into the classroom, from a high school level to the college level, what was it like transitioning from your senior year workload in high school to your freshman year, first, second semester workload in college?
It's honestly, it was less overwhelming than I assumed the first semester I got there. Because the first semester of freshman year, it was a relatively easy schedule. Because they didn't want to, as a freshman, they don't want to overload you with especially major courses. Mm-hmm. So I got, Fridays off on my schedule.
That semester, wow.
Yeah, exactly. So it was working out pretty well. Like my roommate, I got along with him really well. Mm-hmm. And we both had off on Fridays. So that was kind of the easy transition into college. Yeah. But then as the semesters went on and my sophomore year started, the coursework definitely got a bit heavier and had less days off, obviously, and a lot more time in the books. And still no complaints about it because I enjoy the coursework. I enjoy everything.
It's not like you're suffering. It's not like you're engineering typically.
Exactly.
My roommates are engineers. It sucks. A lot of the work is just random math. It's not like actually building bridges. But in exercise science, and I'll jump into this right now. Hard is obviously a relative term, but is it considered a hard major in terms of hours you have to put in studying, or is it more close to, you could kind of go in a test blind and pass with flying colors?
No, so I'd say exercise science, at least in my school, is one of the more challenging majors. And I chose it just because I want to be a physical therapist. That's my end goal. Right. And obviously I have to go to grad school for that and everything. But the courses here taught at Stockton with the exercise science, it is pretty heavy. Like if you take the major science courses like chemistry, organic,
you have to take all
so
that?
Like I took organic chemistry. I took organic chemistry like last semester, and it was rough. Not that I, hate it, doing the homework or anything like that, but just like going to the class, every other day, it was just oh my God, like I gotta sit through this, you know? But then again, there's other courses that are more major related. Like I took one like strength and conditioning or biomechanics and motor learning. Those are a lot more up my alley. They're a lot more, you know, hands-on, involved, and it's making, I guess, the best out of what I can do in these classes, and I'm learning the most. Hopefully, you know, I'm picking up as much information as I can to really prepare me for grad school.
Absolutely. I think that's a great little tidbit you just said. And I think that's not just for exercise science, not just for students at Stockton, but you're going to take classes, right? Like I always bring up this example, but I had to take astronomy, which has nothing to do with my major. Yeah. And it's like, it wasn't a hard class, but it was so boring to sit through.
Yeah.
But then you get to the classes that you really enjoy. Like I'm a journalism major, so I had a class where you'd go out in the field, shoot a news story, come back, edit it, voice over it, do everything. And it's like, this is what it's worth and this is what it's doing. So
it's like fully practiced.
Right.
It's great.
It's interesting to see, you know, that it's the same thing across different schools and across different majors. But looking more into professors specifically, at Stockton, you know, how would you describe the average professor or your experience with professors through your sophomore year?
So I'd say more major related teachers are very good. Like I have a very good standing with all those major related teachers. Like
Gotcha.
There was a new professor who had come in my freshman year or actually might have been my sophomore year. And I had the luxury of being able to take her as a professor,
right.
And I had her for both classes. She, I think, was coming in from like NYU, so
experienced, good school over there.
Yeah, she's got everything, like the whole package almost. She's a physical therapist, you know, licensed on her own, practices by herself, whatever.
Oh, she I didn't mean to interrupt, but she practices when she's not teaching. Like I
believe so. Yeah.
Oh wow. So she like they bring in people who actually do have real world experience.
Yeah. Participates in research groups as well. Like she's got the whole package, and you know, to have her as a professor is like really great.
Awesome.
Very hands-on. Yeah. And same thing with another one of my teachers. He, I believe, also practices on his own time. Mm-hmm. Like, and there's a lot of teachers now that, at least in my major, are really building that connection with the students to practice them or to prepare them for that actual physical therapy job. Now, when I would say like regular gen ed courses, it depends on the teacher. I usually don't like English class, but the English teachers I've had are always like the most free will kind of people.
That's interesting because usually it's kind of again, totally personal anecdote, but usually sometimes they're some of the strictest teachers in terms of deadlines and
right.
whatever else. But
I think
interesting.
I think besides, like you said, maybe the deadlines, but like the papers you have to write about, whatever you want to write about,
that's cool.
That's what really helped me out a lot with getting better at writing, because it was like I always had to follow the strict guideline of what the teacher wants me to write. Now in college, I've been given that, you know, free will to write about whatever I want, and now I can relate that to the exercise science field, because that's what I write about a lot. I write about, like, you know, the obesity, you know, growing in the United States and just globally, and it really helps me, you know, really develop that
skill set, really. And it's cool how you're almost connecting the two classes, right? Your gen ed English class and then, you know, your major of exercise science, writing about, like you said, obesity or just exercise in general. I find that really cool, and I know that's something I practice as well, where I'm very interested in geography. That's my other major at school. And, you know, if I have to do a story about something, it's oftentimes, right, something about the U.S. or travel, or I'm very into people stories, so I'll write about, you know, a personal anecdote about someone that I know. And it, like you said, it just makes it so much easier to write about or learn about something that you're interested in. Yeah. And looking more at the classroom, Stockton as a school has just over 8,000 undergrads, which is, you know, kind of in that medium range. Yeah. In terms of class size, are they big lecture halls with 200-300 kids, or are they more on the smaller end?
So they'd definitely be more on the smaller end. I think the biggest class I had was maybe like 40 kids, and that's considered a lecture. So
that's really small.
Yeah, I think the biggest class is more like those freshman seminar classes, right. and so like I'm gonna do next semester Intro to Psych, which is like just a prerequisite to grad school, but they don't add that in degree works, of course, because why would they tell you your requirements that you need, you know, for their graduate program? I have no idea, but that's a class that's going to be like closer to 70 people. Okay. So I think that's going to be the biggest I would ever.
At Stockton.
Yeah, at Stockton. But majority of my classes are in like the 20 to 25 range, which is relatively small, but I enjoy that because it's a lot better connection with the teacher, a lot better connection with the students, and that really helps you get a better understanding of the class, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely. It's almost like that 25 or 20, 25 range is really like a high school size. And at that point, I mean, it's all about, you going up to the teacher. And I mean, even if you're shy, they'll still probably know you by name because it's such a small class. But looking more, still in the classroom, but looking more towards the social life at Stockton. I mean, what do you think the typical student is at Stockton? I know that's a pretty general question for a school with over 8,000 undergrads, but if you could just describe the characteristics of someone you would expect to see at Stockton.
So, I mean, we're in South Jersey, so it's kind of, I feel like you're always expecting an in-state person. Mm-hmm. So, like, your average Jersey person, but a lot of nice people. I haven't really ever had a bad experience with anyone. I try to get to know as many people as possible, and the people I've gotten to know, always nice people. Like, when I see them around campus, it's always a hi, how are you doing? Like, kind of, catching up almost if I haven't seen them in like a week. I wouldn't say there's any like crazy people. I know there. I know. I know a lot of big schools or stuff like that. Like, you'll see really crazy people at football games, stuff like that.
Right.
I don't know if there's too many of that at my school. I'm not too big of a crazy person myself, so I wouldn't like to be involved with that. But I'd say they're all genuine people.
Yeah.
I never try to judge anyone before I meet them. So I'm always down to make new friends and introduce myself.
Right, for sure. I think that's also a great way to look at college, especially, your first, second semesters where you're still developing a group of friends, developing who you are at school, just to go out of your way and meet whoever you can, whenever you can. And I think, just knowing you, we've known each other for a while, and I think I'll know the answer to this question, but do you think you fit in to Stockton as a student? I know you said, they're mostly nice people and outgoing people, so I think the answer is yes, but just to reaffirm.
Yeah, so regardless of, the people I knew from our hometown that went there,
right,
I went in kind of cold turkey and made my own group of friends, like, just by relating, like, I live in North Jersey, whatever, like, and those people do as well. Now we already have something in common that's, starting off a great friendship. Like,
right.
I've introduced myself to a lot of people, new groups of people, new settings, and no matter what the scenario is, I usually am able, or I'm usually caught talking to someone for like 30 minutes, just about, regardless if it's the school, my personal life, their personal life.
Right.
I'm always just interested to, I guess, to know someone else's story, because it's just one more person, in your list of people, like list of connections. Like, that's what matters.
100%. That's what college a lot of the times is about, just meeting people and having people in your back pocket. Not that you could use necessarily, but say you end up being in a class with them, that's one more person if you're struggling with a test or struggling with homework that you could just hit up and they'll help you out. And moving more towards the campus, you mentioned how it's very pretty. If there's one thing about the campus physically, aesthetically, that sticks out to you, I mean, what would that be? If it's a building or just a plot of land?
I'd say it's definitely the nature aspect of it. I know that's kind of broad,
yeah.
But so where our campus is, I forget what it's called, but they own like a specific part of the forest to as like a reserve.
Okay.
So, and that's like kind of where the campus is. It's basically just kind of not in the middle of nowhere, but it's just in a land of trees and nature.
That's like around it.
Yeah,
and
it is really nice. So, like, my apartments that I live at are on the other side of campus, and the walk to class is just through the woods, and it's like when it snows, when it's really sunny out, like, it's just a nice view.
Pretty. And
it's big lake in between and everything, so it is a really nice aspect of the campus that I appreciate, because like when first time it snowed in South Jersey, probably pretty crazy, this winter, it was like a winter wonderland. It was like the lake was like almost frozen over, snow everywhere, like 3 to 5 inches probably, and it was this great environment. Like, it was amazing.
Yeah, that sounds like, like you said, a winter wonderland. Walk to class sounds pretty cool. Again, at Syracuse, the snow, we see enough of it where, just not a winter wonderland at this point. Yeah. It's more of a nuisance, but, it's an awesome campus, at least from what it sounds like. From I've seen pictures and from what other people have told me, they all love it. At least looking at it, walking around, it's really, really pretty, really easy to look at. In terms of your walk to class, I guess your freshman year where they kind of just probably placed you in a dorm, how long was it to walk around campus, and how long was your longest walk to class?
Oh, so my freshman housing was actually very convenient. It was it was right on campus, like right next to, I'd say, the athletics building.
Gotcha.
So, and I was the B building. It goes like A through M or something
Right.
like that.
And those are all the freshman dorm halls? Okay.
Yeah, so I was B. So I was like relatively close right to the parking lot. And my furthest walk to class was maybe like 7 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that might be the lowest I've heard on.
Yeah, just because I was right on campus as the freshman. Like I was right there next to the parking lots, whatever. Like, yeah, I was, my shortest class to walk to was like 2 minutes maybe. Like I had a lecture hall like right. My freshman seminar was like right across the parking lot, and then down the hallway. That was convenient to me. Like it really was.
Yeah, that's an amazing that 2 minutes. I mean, it happens. I don't usually hear about it on this. Sometimes I'll hear some of the bigger schools like your Penn States or Rutgers is a whole different breed. But
yeah,
you get 30, 40-minute walk to classes or walks around campus, and it's like, at that point you got to plan your day around just that walk.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's regardless maybe if you work on campus or if you're doing something beforehand, maybe doing homework or hanging out with a friend, eating lunch. Like you have to really time your time accordingly to be able to get to class. But like for me, I for the most part I stay on campus, but I can really walk from anywhere, and it's like max a 10-15 minute walk. Like it's nice.
I was gonna say you could roll out of bed at 8:55 and get to class 3 minutes early theoretically.
Yeah.
But looking at I want to bring this up too because it goes into the convenience factor and as we're transitioning to dorms, I think it gets into that as well. I remember seeing on TikTok or reading about it online that Stockton, right? You said it's in Galloway. They have some dorms in Atlantic City. I mean, what's the deal with that, if you know?
So I think what had happened was someone who I guess was at higher power in Stockton was like, hey, let me create a campus on Atlantic City. So
and how far is that away from Galloway?
We're like 20, 25 minutes.
Oh, so it's close.
Yeah. So like even from the beach, we're pretty close.
Yeah.
But they put dorms there. Like they're really nice studio apartments. Like they're more expensive obviously than the campus itself, but they have Atlantic City housing there, and then they also have a campus building itself. So they have a certain amount of classes that they host there, and some kind of food that they obviously provide, and then a busing system from Galloway to Atlantic City.
Okay.
I personally have never had a class in Atlantic City, and I try to avoid that at all costs.
Yeah.
Just because it's a hassle to rely on either a bus or a friend to drive you there.
Yeah.
So it's not that it's like a bad thing, but I feel like if you live in Atlantic City, you're going to take more classes, right outside your apartment than to go back to Galloway and back and forth.
Yeah. Do you know anyone who's done that? At least someone who lives in Galloway or lives on in the Galloway campus. Do you know someone that does that commute pretty often to Atlantic City and then back?
I don't believe it's ever intentional, but I have a couple friends that are business majors, and occasionally they'll pick classes like in a hurry because they're either later on the deadline or something like that, and they don't read where the location is, and they pick the Atlantic City one because it fits their schedule more. And then when they end up figuring out that it's in Atlantic City, it's like, oh my God, like now I have to drive there, or now I have to shuttle there, and it's just it's so funny because they'll always talk about it because like the latest Atlantic City class is like till like 8:30, which isn't that bad.
No, but you gotta get back.
Exactly, but then getting back, it's like night's already halfway done at that point. You're getting back at like 9 o'clock, and it's like, all right, I gotta shower, eat. Do I really even want to go out at this point or even hang out with anyone? It's
it sound at that point it sounds like a hassle, but I guess again if you're commuting from Atlantic City, you live by those classes, it does make sense. That's pretty cool to be right by the beach. But going back to the Galloway campus, I know a ton of colleges post-COVID, a lot of new construction, a lot of new buildings. Has Stockton really been working on their campus at all or upgrading buildings, or is it kind of staying the same?
I don't know how long ago they added like a new apartment building, but like I guess the way we word it is housing 1, 3, 4, and 5 are upperclassmen, and then housing 2 is the freshmen, or housing 2 and 3 are the freshmen. Yeah. And so housing 5 was like this crazy new apartment buildings that were added in. I don't know how long ago, but those are definitely like very up to date, newer.
Gotcha.
And then besides, they haven't really added a lot of apartments, but the newer science buildings, which is another reason like exercise science is starting to excel at the school, is they're adding a lot of new technology and exercise science, just buildings in general, for more classes to be in and for more teachers to, really fill out those classrooms. So it's good. Yeah.
So, I mean, again, going back to exercise science, you'd say it's a pretty fast growing major at Stockton in terms of, I guess, people who are taking it and then money they're investing into it.
Yeah. It's so my brother's class, who had just come in as the freshmen, they let in way too many kids. So they let in like 2,000 kids in their class, and it was and all of them want it to be exercise science.
Wow.
That's the new thing, is like everyone wants to be exercise science when they come to Stockton, because they hear about it. It's a very good program, but then, so many people get in and so many people apply for it that there's wait list for so many classes because of everyone trying to get into that major. And it really is difficult, especially as an incoming freshman, to try and get those major courses. Like, you might have to wait, semester, whatever.
Yeah.
And now you're just delaying your graduation time because you have to wait so long.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, and that's a huge issue. I know, not just with Stockton, but other colleges too, just admitting way too many people. And I don't really know what it is, because you think they'd have that figured out on a national level, like how many kids they could let in and not, but it is what it is, and I guess we all got to get through it together. But looking more at your experience in the dorm rooms personally, as a freshman, what was your physical dorm room like? Was it small, big? Just give me the rundown of what it was like living in a freshman dorm at Stockton. Yeah,
so I'd say the freshman dorms were honestly pretty fun for me. Like, I was talking to my roommate before, like in the summer. So we had already planned out a lot of stuff. We already got to know each other. And the way the freshman housing is laid out is like 3 stories, and it usually alternates gender. So like I was in B, so it went girl, boy, girl, and I was in the middle
one
floor. Yeah. And I really only got to know my roommate at first, and then obviously you have the floor meetings with your RA and everything. Yeah. And I got to know a couple kids. We had really good time together. Just the average small 2-bedroom with, a closet, mini fridge, and, 2 desks. And then we probably had maybe 20 to 25 kids on our floor.
Oh, so it's relatively small building, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess per floor, right? And then we had just that, shared bathroom and everything, couple stalls, couple showers.
Communal.
Yeah. I did enjoy, though, that our common area had a big flat screen. So, like, sometimes we'd bring our Xbox out there and have, like, a group, kind of
like
get
watch
together.
Football on Sundays.
Exactly. Watch football, watch boxing, watch anything. And it was good to just kind of hang out with your friends at the same time as watching, big screen game. It's great.
Because I remember, on that note, being at college, right? I remember, like, I didn't live in a dorm this past year as a sophomore, but my freshman year, obviously, I did. And we'd go in and just watch, like, the big road games for Syracuse, or, like, we'd watch the Super Bowl in there, whatever. And there'd be some kids who, like, would just watch games alone. And I always found that the weirdest thing, because they'd be in their dorm room just watching the game by themselves, because they'd either be, like, too stressed out or too invested in it. And then we'd all be out there, like, we'd order food or whatever else. And I think it was just a great way to meet people and bond over, like you said, being from North Jersey, bonding over that, but also bonding over sports is such a great way, at least for guys too, and girls. Yeah. But, it's just such a great way to bond and make easy connections. And looking past housing options as a freshman, as a sophomore, junior, senior, upperclassman, is it on-campus housing that you live in, or is it, landlord-owned apartments, houses, stuff like that? I mean, what are the housing options at Stockton as you go up in the class ranks?
So this is it's kind of confusing how this works.
Okay.
So as a sophomore, I went across campus, on the other side of the lake, and got apartments with my buddy, or with a couple of my friends. So like that's not rented or anything. That's still school owned.
Stockton owned.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's really just the other side of campus that you're living on. Those, you can live in that housing up until you're a senior.
Oh, wow.
I believe so. So like they won't necessarily kick you out,
Okay.
So that's housing one. Freshmen can somehow live there if they apply with a certain amount of kids to live there, right?
Interesting. Okay.
And then it upgrades. So like now, junior year, I'm going into housing 4, which is, I guess, a little bit further off on campus. And it's just nicer apartments. So like
it's just still owned by Stockton.
Yeah. So It's just bigger kitchen, bigger living room, bigger like bedrooms, it's just et cetera. So it's just, I guess, a little bit better than that housing one.
Right.
And I never felt a need to kind of go off campus right now. Mm-hmm. I was kind of held back from not having a car. So like I wouldn't want to rely on people if I lived in a house to drive me to campus, stuff like that. But sticking with the same kids, going to housing 4, and that's going to be a good option for me, because I always feel like walking to class or taking the shuttle, like it's convenient, and by staying on campus, I meet more people. Yeah. I'm always going to be on campus, so it allows me to even make more connections than I already have, and really broaden my horizon with what I can do still being on campus.
Yeah, and it really is about, what's best for you, what's best for your roommates. If being off campus for whatever reason is better, I don't know if it's cheaper or whatever, but like, it really is about you. You can't really follow, and again, this is just some personal advice, but you can't follow what other people are doing, and that's a general statement too. Probably the most cliche thing I could have said for a college podcast. But and one thing I always love to ask too is if there's any freshman year roommate stories, I guess not even from yourself, but just that you heard at Stockton, because there's always, I've heard some really, really weird things or funny things on this show. If there's anything that you experienced or remember from your freshman year at Stockton.
I'm trying to think of like one I can kind of share.
Yeah, some of them get a little too graphic or just...
Yeah, because like, some things are like, just a guy that you thought was your friend ends up doing some, weird stuff, and you're like, I can't really associate myself with you anymore. Like, stuff like that happens, unfortunately. I'm gonna say this, and it's obviously there's gonna be no names involved, whatever, stuff like that. But I had a friend who, was in a fraternity and had some really bad stuff happen to him, and he ends up waking up in the hospital, like the next morning, and it was like really bad. His parents had to come and get him. And it just kind of went downhill for him, from there. He's working now, he's doing good for himself, but just that whole scenario, that whole month period, kind of where it just went downhill.
Right.
You got to feel for him, because it's it's so difficult to have your friend or see a friend and then and just watch him kind of slowly lose what he's got going for him.
Right.
And but nothing too crazy. I think it's kind of just the average. I got along with my roommate. We didn't really have any fights at all, I don't think. We kind of went down the same path, him being a business major, me being an exercise science major. We kind of were doing our own thing, but had similar friends, had similar lives at school. Like,
right.
It was a good time with him, and still friends with him to this day, obviously. Like, never going to lose that connection. He's a great guy. But yeah, nothing too crazy.
Yeah, it's always good to hear when someone has a good freshman year dorming experience, because again, some of them get a little questionable. And looking at the dining halls, which always ties into the dorm halls. I mean, did you have to have a mandatory meal plan as a freshman? And then on top of that, kind of a double-ended question. Did you like the food as well, or was it pretty just bad to eat?
Right. Okay. So my freshman year, if you lived in like the housing I lived in, you had to have a meal plan.
Okay.
Right, and it was like the most you had was like a 19 a week, which is crazy to me, because that's 2.5 meals maybe a day.
Yeah.
Because so the way I was able to work it out was you could have 2 swipes before 3:30, and then after 3:30 you could have 2 more, but you obviously only had 19 in a week.
Right.
And so for me, coming into college, I wanted to eat as much as possible and get as big as possible.
Right.
And I would run through my 19 meals a week on like Thursday.
Oh,
so
geez.
I'd still have Friday, Saturday, and like Sunday morning to kind of deal with not having any meals.
Yeah.
And like, it was just, that was a crazy part to me. So that, along with the food on campus, we have a dining hall. I guess that's just like a free kind of serve thing.
Yeah.
You swipe in and, eat as much as you want, whatever. Right. And then there's I guess in the campus center, it's almost like a mall kind of area. And then, there's like, there's Chick-fil-A,
like stuff like that.
A place that's
fast
similar
food type of
right. A place that's similar to like Chipotle, sandwich place, pizza place, whatever. And that was where I spent most of my meals, because I was either getting burgers, Chick-fil-A. Like my freshman year, I was getting Chick-fil-A nonstop. That was like my first time ever.
I don't even blame you about that one. Yeah,
like
it's addicting.
It really was. Now I try to eat it as least as possible, but because you just get sick of it eventually.
Right.
I'd say the first food center I mentioned, the one that's kind of like a free for all of whatever you want to eat, they're very hit or miss.
Yeah, makes sense.
My freshman year, I went with my one friend. Before our morning class, we'd go there like every other day when it lined up, and like the breakfast was all right, because you could make your own waffles, like with actual dough and stuff.
Oh, so wow, that's a cool perk.
Yeah, and so the only bad part was the eggs are like the powdered eggs, so that's like you're eating like astronaut food almost. And then dinner was a very, like my brother says, it's very hit or miss. Like you go there and either the chicken's raw or
or
that's
very miss.
Or it's like they serve like a good sausage pizza kind of combo mix, whatever, and it like worked out pretty well. But I don't know. I try to go there as least as possible, and now having a kitchen, I cook majority of my own meals. Very simple, but I cook majority of them just to make it, I guess, a lot more to myself. Of what I like,
It's gonna be better, and it's gonna be cheaper than a meal plan too, because they really just, overcharge the crap out of those meal plans, no matter what it is. And you mentioned you have a kitchen as well. How do you get to the grocery store? Like, do you buy that food on campus, or do you have to have someone drive you to a grocery store out in the town of Galloway?
So my roommates have cars.
Okay.
Thankfully. So we usually like around once a week, maybe once like every 1.5 to 2 weeks, we go shopping, depending on how fast we eat our food.
Right.
But We go to Aldi's. I think that's probably the best.
Yeah, it's a good
hack.
grocery store.
Like, everything's so much cheaper there. Like, me and my roommate will drop like $40 to $50 each on groceries, and that'll last us for like over a week.
Oh wow, yeah, that's really
And like ShopRite, you're going to drop $40 to $50, and you're buying maybe like 3 to 4 items. Like that's a pretty big price difference.
Yeah.
And it really makes the best out of having a kitchen on campus and buying your own groceries, because it really is helpful, where you don't have to drop so much money and only, kind of support yourself for close to a week.
Right.
Whereas I'm buying, like pounds of ground meat
Yeah.
for, like 1 to 2 weeks on end. And it's great, because it really provides me with like the meals I need to eat, for lunch, dinner, whatever.
Yeah, and it's definitely better than dining hall food. You can make it whenever you want, 4 a.m., more normal time, like 2 p.m. But sometimes, we get hungry whenever. We're 20-year-old guys. Mm-hmm. But, moving more towards campus life, is there anything fun you do, outside of class, outside of just hanging out with friends, like any clubs or any societies, anything like that you're involved in?
So I'm in a fraternity.
Oh, social one, or?
I guess that's what you would call it, right?
Yeah, because they have the ones where it's like
academic, right?
Academic, where it's like you join for like your specific major or school.
Oh, no. So yeah, this is a social.
Got you.
So I'm in a fraternity. I try to partake in intramural soccer as much as possible, even though I don't really like soccer that much. My friends still play, so I'm like, might as well, do something active. So intramural soccer as well. I just joined recently the exercise science club.
Okay.
So a major related club, not that big, and we're really trying to make it grow.
Right.
Because obviously there's so many people coming in wanting to join the major. Why not join the club?
Yeah.
And get a little bit more info, and especially something to put on your resume and really help you out in the future.
Absolutely.
I think that's mainly the 3 things I'm involved in. I also work on campus. I forgot about that. So
how's that having a job, balancing, your job and then, class, and obviously, being in a fraternity too is a commitment. People don't realize that, a lot of philanthropy stuff you got to do, meetings. I mean, how's that balancing, your social life, academic life, and then your job?
Yeah, so it is pretty good. I've found a pretty good schedule for it. Hopefully I can, implement a pretty good schedule next semester as well. But the work isn't terrible. So like all I'm doing is sitting at a desk, and I'm allowed to do my own homework. I just have to check people in.
Oh yeah, it's
pretty
easy. Yeah.
And so what I mean by not terrible is in the sense of I'm not sitting there for hours on end. Like, we have shifts, we have people that, to swap with each other. So I'm only working like 3 to 3.5 hours sitting at that desk, and I'm able to like actually do my work there. So then when I do my work there, I go home, I either work out or now I have the free time to do whatever I want. Yeah, because I've been able to do my work, and it is very convenient for me. I'm somehow lucky to get that job.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Usually they own, like, every other kid that works there is on the sports team.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
how'd you get that? Just luck, or did you know someone?
I think I applied at the right time.
Okay.
And then I had my like over the phone interview with the boss, and she had just really liked me. So it ended up working out in my favor, because now that the more I think about it, it's like I'm the only kid that's not on the sports team, and it's funny. Yeah, because I guess I just got luck at the draw, perfect timing at the right moment.
Yeah, and you mentioned you're in a fraternity as well. Greek life as a whole at Stockton, is it big, or a lot of people involved, or is it more low key and something that maybe 10 or 20% of the campus is a part of?
I'd say at least a lot of what I'm surrounded is Greek life. So like a lot of people I know, a lot of things I see on campus are Greek life.
Yeah.
And it's not like that runs the school or anything.
Right.
But I'd say if you're looking to go to a party or like an event, usually it's a Greek life party or it's a sports party. I think those are the two, bigger things. And it's not like they're exclusive or anything like that. Like, if you want to go, you can go. And, I don't know how other fraternities run their stuff, like if you have to pay to get in, whatever.
Right.
But it's always, it's always welcoming. It's always, let's get as many people as we can to come out to whatever. Because it's, at the end of the day, it's about having a good time and trying to get everyone to have a good time as well. Not just trying to be exclusive to who you want or whatever. But, especially as a philanthropy, you want to make a lot of money to either doing events around campus or involving yourself in out of campus events. Like I know we go to the like Ocean City Boardwalk for like our philanthropy is Lou Gehrig's disease. So like we try to involve ourselves a lot and raise money for ALS, and it works out in our favor a lot, because we get to meet a lot of people. We put ourselves in, different environments where we, you're either to introduce the philanthropy to more people or really get that disease awareness out there,
Right. And I think a lot of people don't realize, again, I brought this up before, but the time commitment of Greek life. And you're doing other things besides, drinking and partying, even though obviously, like, depending on you and whatever else, that could be a big part of it. But, and in terms of, and then, moving past Greek life specifically, in terms of just campus-wide traditions, is there anything at Stockton that you've seen that a lot of people follow, or is it kind of just, not, it's kind of a newer school, so is there, not too many, superstitions and stuff developed yet?
Right. I don't think there's really that much going on with traditions itself. Like when I visited Kutztown in Pennsylvania, they have a big statue of like their logo, like a bear or whatever that was.
Yeah.
And they touch that whenever they walk by, or if they want good luck before like a game, they'll go up to it and touch it, whatever. But I think at Stockton, usually how there's at most schools there's like a big logo in the like in the main building, the campus center, and I think maybe like the kind of a superstition at my school that's kind of growing is like people try not to walk over that logo.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's like a big thing or a weird thing around other schools, but it's really 50-50 on whether I do it or not that day. I try to walk around it, but I don't know what bad there is to bring if I were to walk over it.
Right.
I've yet to test the waters with it. So, and I've yet to see other people really get involved with that. So I wouldn't say there's much superstition or tradition at my school, because we don't even have a football game. So we don't even have a football team. So there's no traditions before any other football game or anything like that, because there's no game to go to.
Yeah, and I think that perfectly transitions into what I wanted to ask you next in terms of like sports culture on Stockton's campus. I didn't even know there wasn't a football team, but are sports games going to them big at all, or does no one really go to them?
It really is kind of a iffy. It depends the sport. So like lacrosse and soccer, I'd say, are the biggest ones at our school.
Interesting.
Oh, wait. No, forgot about basketball.
Yeah, makes sense.
I was going to say I'd say basketball is the biggest at our school, just because usually we're good. Like usually, like for a D3 school, usually we're competing very well, and I think we've made it to like the Sweet 16 a couple times.
Oh, wow.
And so we've definitely held our ground with the basketball team itself, and a lot of people like to go to those games. Very energetic, a lot of people in the court and inside the building, so a lot of noise, a lot of energy. I'd say the second and third biggest sports are like lacrosse and soccer, because again, our lacrosse team is pretty good, and being able to perform well in front of people and really show off for good games like that'll bring a bigger crowd each game. Again, not that it's thousands of people like a Penn State game or anything like that, but like enough to go see your friends and support them, and see the families too that come down to see their kids play. Like it is more of like a homey kind of sense, or a homey kind of feeling, because it's more family oriented, more instead of thousands of kids.
Yeah, just screaming and yelling and all that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But obviously it makes sense, right? If the team, Division I or major leagues, obviously it makes sense if the team's good. More people are going to show out. So it's definitely, because there are some D3 schools where the teams just suck, and then obviously like the only people who go there are the parents, and then like boyfriends and girlfriends. Yeah. But it's good to hear that Stockton is putting out good programs that people even if it's just a few hundred, that people actually want to go out and see. And in terms of nightlife and stuff to do on weekends, I know you mentioned that the two biggest ways to go out are a sports party or Greek life party. Is there anything else to do on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night besides that, or are those kind of your only two options?
So on Wednesdays they have Pitney, which is like a bar.
Okay.
So I don't know how strict they are with, because I've never been. Usually I'm not a big go out during the week kind of guy.
Right.
Just because I like to have my schedule down and really stay disciplined to that. But I know a lot of my friends that go out on Wednesdays, they go to that bar. Yeah. But I don't know. Usually it's just Friday and Saturdays. Yeah, Greek life throws a party, regardless of who it is, and that is like the biggest thing. Obviously, once you turn of age, you can go to Atlantic City, and that's a big thing. I know there's a couple times a semester that a DJ at our school hosts in Atlantic City, and they let in a lot of kids from
cool.
our school.
Yeah.
So we've gone to Atlantic City during, I think it was a Friday or Saturday that. And that's a good time. Obviously, you could just go to AC in general to just have a good time. You don't have to go into clubs or anything like that. But regardless of if you go out or not, you could still hang out with your friends and do whatever that they're doing in the apartments, play Xbox, go to the gym late at night. There's a lot of personal things that I definitely attributed to a lot more this semester, because I had stayed in a lot more. I'd only gone out a couple times just because I wanted to stay discipline to my schedule and whatever worked for me. So, if going out and drinking, 2-3 times a week wasn't my thing, I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I would just stick to doing homework or working out and just trying to stay locked in on what I wanted to achieve,
Yeah. And I think that happens a lot too, as you get, second semester, sophomore year, beginning of your junior year, where you start to kind of go out less and less and really spend time with the people that, I don't want to say mean more to you, but kind of your close friends, or you might just do some more independent things where you just kind of, I feel like as a freshman, it's go out every weekend, go out multiple times a week. And as you kind of get older, it's like, you still go out, you still have fun, but your life is not kind of relying on that. There's other things and other elements that, you're focused on. And, one thing that interests me personally is studying abroad. And I think, I don't really know anything about if study abroad is an option at Stockton or if people do it, but at least from what do people study abroad at not at Stockton, but students from Stockton, do they go, to Europe or to any other countries to study abroad, or is it not really a popular thing?
So I was looking into it, definitely, for this upcoming semester. It just didn't work out, I think, with my major and how much work I was going to have to actually complete before graduating. Right. I just didn't think it was going to work out, especially the money, financial aspect of it.
Yeah, it gets expensive.
Yeah, and besides like those aspects, I think it's not like a big thing, but it's definitely offered. So like I talked to my advisor about it, and they said, yeah, like we have a campus in, I think it's somewhere in Italy. I forget which city it's in. We have a campus in Tokyo, I think.
Oh, that's a cool
option. So that's another option, and I believe we have one somewhere else in either Europe or Asia.
Right.
And so I mean, like 2 or 3 good options.
Yeah.
If you really were looking to go abroad, you can literally go across the world to Japan. It seems like
crazy.
Seems like a pretty cool option to have. I don't know, obviously the money involved to Tokyo, but I know if you're going to like Italy, you're going to be traveling a lot. You're going to be doing a lot of things, so you would need a lot of money to support that lifestyle.
Yeah, it makes sense, and it's cool that it's an option, no matter if it's popular or not. It's good to see that they actually are giving students the opportunity to go somewhere else besides Galloway for a semester or however long it might be. And Nick, as we wrap up, and we've talked about a lot of really good, important topics here, and I know this might be tough, but if you could describe Stockton in one sentence, like kind of an elevator pitch, if you have 10 seconds with me or 15 seconds with me, what would you tell me to try and get me to go to Stockton?
Stockton is the best time if you can make it the best time.
Yeah.
I know that's kind of like repetitive, but it's kind of like to simple it down. Like it is what you make of it. You know, it's if you can make a good group of friends, have a good time, like you can really develop a good lifestyle that'll keep you entertained for the 4 years and more if you're into grad school.
Yeah.
Like if you're not willing to make friends or not willing to really go out or even just, go like to the beach or the boardwalk, on your free time. Like if you're not willing to do those small, fun things with people that you want in your life, then it's not going to go the best for you, because it's hard to kind of function alone.
Yeah.
In a society where like, a lot of things are built off of making connections and having good friends. So it is what you make of it. And I think if you can really, I mean, I don't want to be repetitive about it, but it's all about having a good time and enjoying what you have. Don't take things for granted. And if the opportunity's there for you, might as well take it, regardless of if it's outside your box or something you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I think that's some great advice, not just for students going into Stockton, but students going anywhere. And Nick, as we wrap up, is there anything else you want to tell the listeners, or some advice you have for students going to Stockton or students looking at colleges? Or
I'd say just focus on your academics a lot more than you think you have to, just because you get so absorbed into wanting to be social and wanting to go out and drink all the time. You really forget about academics. And, partying and drinking isn't going to get you into your job. Obviously your grades are. So really building that resume is what's going to help you in the future. And that's all I've been trying to do is, take as many opportunities as I can, talk to as many people as I can, and really get to know people, because that's what's going to get you the better or the best possible option for the future. It's whatever job you want to take or whatever path you want to, go down, it's the best option for you. What can you do to optimize your outcome?
Absolutely. And Nick, I just want to say that's some great advice. Again, we've talked about a lot of really, really not just cool, but important topics for students going to Stockton or students going to college anywhere. So, as we wrap up here, I just want to say thank you for your time, and I wish you the best of luck in your next 2 years and beyond at grad school, at Stockton.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on the channel, and same to you.